This podcast is brought to you by the Ministry of ICT and Innovation in partnership with GIZ and the Digital Transformation Center Rwanda. Hello. Welcome to Tech Decoded podcast, where we're decoding Rwanda's digital transformation today. Today's conversation is something that I've been itching for, and it sounds like it's out of a sci-fi movie or something like that, but it's not. It's happening right now in Rwanda. Rwanda is using drones for different use cases, whether it's in agriculture, healthcare, videography and photography, to name a few. And today I have some experts to kind of dive into this space and help us understand exactly what's going on and how we can be part of the movement. Thank you so much, Teddy, for joining us. Thank you so much, Kelia, for joining us. For those who don't know you and what you do you mind going through small bios?
My name is Kelia. I'm Kelia Mugenzi, and I'm a team lead for the drone component here at GIZ Rwanda. I work at the Digital Transformation Center. Before I used to be part of the AI team, but now I'm kind of leading the activities on drones. I remember the first time I got introduced to drones was in 2018, right after school, and it was just a small training program that's called Flying Robots Fellowship, and through that, I would say my knowledge about drones has grown from different projects, different kind of works that we're doing in the field. So yeah, that's a little bit about myself, and yeah.
All right, thanks very much. My name is Teddy Segore, and I'm the COO at Charis Air Solutions. We started Charis back in 2014, and it's been an amazing journey, I would say. And from that time, providing basic services like in videography, photography, and now moving into more industrial services. And I got my first, actually, I'm also a drone pilot. I got my first license back in 2016. And being actually the first drone pilot in Rwanda, I would say. So it's been an amazing journey. And
I know.
It's been an amazing journey, and seeing this drone technology growing and becoming a solution that is helping a lot of people, bringing saving lives, bringing an impact into our daily lives has been an amazing journey, I would say.
I love that. Before we get into the thick of the conversation, right on that element especially, there are people who do have some misconceptions about drones, what they are, what they do, if they're coming after my job and whatnot. I do have a few myths from the young people watching this conversation, and let us know if it's fact or false, yeah? The first one goes, drones are a luxury and not a necessity, especially for countries like Rwanda. True or false?
I would say that drones, they're not really a luxury, but they're a necessity. These are solutions that are proven to be important in our age, I would say, right? So I think it's not a luxury, but rather a necessity. So it's false to me.
So completely on the other side of the spectrum. Do you hold the same
I would say
sentiment?
also false, because if you look at drones, it's like a tool that's to be used. So for me, I don't think it's luxury, but something that we can use to continuously improve the lives of Rwandans, but then also improve the kind of work that we're doing.
Okay. If I can add my own 2 cents as well, because we set the rules about this podcast, I would also suggest some thoughts, especially around the use cases that we are seeing commonly within the drone technology space in Rwanda. It's mostly agriculture and healthcare, and those 2 industries, necessities, definitely not luxuries. This is literally life-changing technology. Now, when we go to the second myth, this one talks about the limitation of drones, at least the assumption of their limitations, which says drones are mainly useful for delivery and photography/videography.
False. What you can do with drones, actually, there are more services, more solutions that are still coming up even up to now. So they're really endless, I would say. So it's as far as really you can think, and that's it from here.
Yeah, I would say false as well. There's a reason why drones is classified under emerging technologies, because I think for it to be a tool, it has like fundamentals of what is a drone. But if you look at the application, it depends on what kind of payloads you have on it. So some drones are used for spraying, some are used for mapping. But if you look at the way they work, it also depends on what kind of payload you have. So it's still a growing industry. There's like lots of technologies that are still being developed. If you look at LIDAR, multispectral cameras, we have most of them coming up every single now and then. So there's like lots of growth in the space itself. So I think for me, it's it's definitely force. It's not a one tool for one job only.
Okay. And the final myth is that drones are too complex for local communities to adopt to. Maybe I'll start with you.
It's not. That's one thing. So if you look at any application that you want to introduce to the community, the first thing you have to look at is awareness. How well does the people understand what you're trying to do? And then also, how well are you able to explain how this is going to, I would say, happen or even work in the long term? But also, I think for everything that you do when it comes to drones, it's rather nice to have the community involved, because they're the first, I would say, people that interact with the drone itself. It's in the community, it's flying in the community. So for me, I think it's not too complex for them to understand, as long as you put not the right words, but if you explain it to them in the right way, then it's easier for them to understand, okay, this tool is going to help us in this particular aspect. So they usually are receptive to it and they don't really shy away from it. So I would say that it's not something that's too complex for them, at least if you're talking about the usability of it. But if you're thinking about the technicalities of it, maybe it can be too complex for some communities, but also there's like different programs that help them to also be familiarized with how drones work and what they are. Yeah.
Right. Okay. That's a great segue into the thick of the conversation. I wanted to kind of start with Charis UAS and how they started, specifically considering like Rwanda is championing or pioneering drone technology. I wanted to say globally, but I'll limit it to Africa at least, right? And there are a lot of problems and different types of solutions. So why choose drones as a solution to the problem you're trying to solve?
At Charis, when we began, like I said, in 2014, first of all, we wanted to provide a solution, to, first of all, Rwanda's most pressing, challenges, whether in agriculture, in health, in construction. And we found that drones could be a good platform to use, because this is a platform where we can interchangeably, change sensors, cameras, and use the same platform to collect those data. And at the time, this was still a technology that hadn't yet started fully, and we thought, why not? Let's give it a try. Of course, we knew that there will be challenges along the road, along the journey, but we were ready to take up that challenge, and we actually found that was the right step to take, and this went beyond not only flying cool machines, I would say, but now bringing up solutions that were impacting lives, and that's what we're all about. We wanted to bring up solutions that will impact life, that can show that the impact is real. It's not just about things that people talk about, technology. No, but we thought that this technology, in this case, this drone technology, should be purpose-driven, and it was the impact that we're after.
And when we, let's say, focus on one element, one industry, say healthcare, how exactly has this technology impacted the communities?
So, for example, one of the way we've been contributing in the health sector was through our drone-powered malaria control program. And obviously, as you all know, malaria has been for many years a very devastating, disease, especially for communities that live in wetland areas. Because they're not able to work. They're not able to work effectively, and we thought that we could use drones to spray larvicides, over mosquito breeding sites, and those places were high-risk areas. And we thought that if we could target them, effectively, we would be able to even control, these mosquito breeding sites before they become a threat. And about that. Not only because we found that human spraying was quite limited. So some places you couldn't get to because the places was flooded or they were swampy, but now the drone brought out this solution where you were able to fly over places like large area, you're able to cover them, in a very short time with very high precision, and even spraying effectively without wasting, some of these products. And above that as well, we used data analytics and mapping now to even accurately locate where those high-risk zones are. So we're not just spraying blindly, but we know where we are spraying. And this has really proven to be quite effective. The impact is real, and this has also contributed to lowering the transmission rate of malaria, in that community.
And what about like emergency cases? I know the few people who do know about drone technology, at least its application here in Rwanda, they talk about transporting blood or maybe even organs. I don't know if it's even true. But when we do talk about like impact and then adoption, like what do the numbers actually look like? Is this just something that we're doing for PR? Like we just capture a few drones and that's about it? Is it actually being adopted and like used by the people?
If you look at the first applications in drones that were in Rwanda, it's Zipline, and I think it started in operation in 2017, 2016-ish. That's where we had these first operations. First of all, the limitations were how can we operate beyond the line of sight? Because if you look at these drones, they actually operate without a pilot. That kind of helps it work. So it's, first of all, it's beyond the line of sight of vision. That was the first issue we had to face. So we were the first country globally to also kind of have such a use case that's going to provide a solution to the entire country. So if you look at numbers also, numbers are interesting. Actually, when you visit the Zipline Muhanga or Kayonza, they tell you that sometimes they can have 300 flights per day. These are 300 deliveries to different locations of people who are needing those services. But if you look at the impact has grown a lot from just only being blood. Now they also have other different medical products that they deliver, like diabetics insulins, and we have other different other medical products that they also deliver. So it has gone from just the use case being drawn from it, transporting blood, to now how can you also transport medical supplies to different locations. But it has also gone into agriculture and actually livestock farming. So now we're looking at also pig semen, I think, animal semen. They're also doing such deliveries now to all the locations as well. So it's also from farmer to another farmer where they collect them. So they have a beautiful lab. So if you guys are able to visit them.
It's interesting to hear about these use cases, Yabari, in the healthcare space or agriculture and whatnot, and how high the demand is, right? But I'm sure, obviously, there's like challenges, Yabari, in adoption or even just in allowing or upskilling people to man these drones. Because from at least what I understand, they're unmanned drones, yes, but technically it just means that they're being manned remotely. Is that wrong?
Simply put, I would say unmanned, we have manned and unmanned. So manned means the pilot is inside the cockpit, and unmanned, the pilot is outside the cockpit. So this is the case for drones. So basically the pilot is outside and not inside the drone.
And there is one pilot per drone.
Yes, regulatory speaking, yes. There's one pilot per drone, but the technology can accommodate
mission.
So you can have a pilot, you can have a payload operator, you can have an observer. So
yeah. That already throws out the first challenge of like people being scared that the drones are taking away their jobs and whatnot, because it is creating a lot of jobs for, well, the technically skilled people, but then also making life easier for the farmers and medical experts and saving lives, right? But what about the other challenges then? Like what kind of adoption challenges are we facing? Are the people receptive? Are they ruining the drones by throwing stones at them? Like how does that look like on site?
At first, the major challenges was awareness. The first impression people had about drones was that, when they hear about drones, they hear military, military. So we had to create a lot of awareness, in the communities when we are going to start an operation. We explain to them, this is what we're going to do, So it started becoming now word of mouth to everyone. Oh, the drone that does this. For example, like some of the work we do in for the malaria control, they call it limit. So they call it like that's the drone that comes to eradicate malaria. So they have now this acquaintance with this technology. So it's no longer something to be afraid of, but they see it now as a solution that is coming to help them. So awareness was the major challenge, but with time, especially now, it hasn't. Now at least the awareness has been hasn't been a challenge. And at first as well, there were also regulatory limitations. But thankfully, to the leadership in Rwanda, it really helped in helping push this ecosystem forward. And that's why we can thrive as we are doing at this point here.
Okay. And what about in agriculture? I know one of the challenges we're facing is like food insecurity, or also like lack of sustainability in the way we process the food or even just do the farming itself. How are we utilizing drone technology within this sector? Because at least my biased perspective is that this is the newer-ish use case. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
Am I?
No, you're not.
Okay. Okay, how are you tackling this challenge of food insecurity and sustainability?
So if you look at agriculture is one of the biggest outputs to the country when it comes to GDP or the income itself, but we still face those issues where we have like lots of unanswered questions such as crop yield, such as the status of the crops while they're growing, or at least the harvest season, how much we've got. So I think a drone for itself, it's a powerful tool because it's able to provide, first of all, area images. But then looking at different payloads you can add to the drone, some of them like multispectral cameras or even thermal sensors, they're actually able to show you if a crop is stressed or if it needs a bit of water.
English, please. Thermal sensors, multispectral what?
The multispectral camera,
Okay.
and then also thermal sensors. So all of those are payloads that are being used
what
in...
What are those exactly?
I don't know. Maybe the first pilot in Rwanda can help you, but also some things are just simple. Some of the drones, like one we've seen that's actually a VTOL, it's called Vintra. It actually uses a Sony camera, like the one you would use for a vlog. But for it's a bit more tailored to now only take images in RGB format. So if you look at RGB format, it's red, green, blue. And then what this helps the person who's going to now analyze the data is that they can extract the indices from those images. That's part of the post-processing techniques that we also have for the drone application. But back to your question on agriculture. So now we're using all of those fancy things to now capture the data. And after we capture the data, then we process the data and we analyze it. And now we're able to provide, I would say, agricultural insights that are now data-backed. So if you look at different questions we ask ourselves is, let's say, if I have a huge farm and I can't probably go around it all the time, and if I have to go around it, maybe it takes me 3 months, right? How can I use a drone technology to just do it for 2 hours or 3 hours and then be able to get the results in 3 days? Those are informed decisions. So let's say if there's like a new disease that's affecting a particular area in agriculture, maybe Minagri can have those endeavors where they say, okay, can we have a drone giving us actual data from that zone, other than, having agronomists going out there, testing labs, coming back, and then doing this, but rather have the drones doing it in 3 days.
Yeah.
So that's how
by the time they're done,
by the time they were done, we would have results already. So that's how the drone can be used.
Yeah.
So first of all, we're looking at crop health, but then also the yield prediction that can also be done depending on the size of the farms, depending on how many crops are grown in that area. There can also be a bit of counting, and then that can help you plan better the market. Now we're not only looking at the farmers, now we're also looking at the readiness of the market when it comes to the crops that are being grown.
Interesting. Okay, and in terms of the people, how collaborative is the environment? What kind of skills do you want the traditional operators within the industries to get in order to be better collaborators? Basically, how can we make the young people feel like their jobs are not at stake, but rather, if they improve in this particular way, they will have like a unique selling point. They will have they'll stand out in their industry even.
Okay, if you look at the skills, then I would say that it depends on the kind of role they play in the application, or at least in the use case itself. So if you look at agriculture, there's like a lot of things that are needed. First of all, you need the involvement of local communities. So the first thing that we do is also kind of capacitate the community leaders to understand that this is a drone, it will capture images, and these images will be processed, and then there'll be results that will be shared with you. And then I think community leaders then the best amplifiers of the message that we're trying to provide. So they're always also part of the issues that we do. If we're going to this particular area, he's there or she's there to support us let's say, if clearing the way, or I don't know, a couple of things like that. And then the second part is we're looking at agronomists on a level of they understand the plants even better than anybody else, because this is education background, but then also the kind of work they've been doing for a long time. So if you proactively kind of engage them in the solution, they're also able to learn a few things here and there. In the agriculture sector, they still use indices as well, to let's say calculate the infrared or a couple of other things when it comes to plants, the soil moisture. It's not only on the drone technology, but there's also IoT tools, Internet of Things. I think if you look at it, if you continuously engage with them in the sector, they also come proactively, engaged, and then they can also provide other, I would say, advice on how, let's say, if you haven't flown in an area and then they need to collect more data, they're also the ones to actually show you what to do. And then for the young people who wants to get, or at least be involved in the space, I would say the drone technology kind of like has these two roles that are the main ones. The first one is a pilot, of course, to be the drone pilot. So I think for that, there's like lots of aviation schools that can support you to earn a pilot license, but then also there's like lots of training programs that happen here and there. So keep your eyes out into those programs, and then you can apply, learn, and then be able to fly. The second part is one of the key roles.
The fourth, second part.
No, that's
I love this.
That's the second part of the roles that they can play.
Yeah.
So the second part would be that they also learn how to be on the post-processing part. So now pilots have collected the data. Now I can analyze them, right? So I think that's also one of the key roles. There would never be few roles for that. There will always be a demand for that, because we need people who can understand agriculture, who understand construction. We end up doing with all those people when it comes to the spaces. So no matter what background you have, you can also be part of the data analysis perspective of things. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What about the healthcare space or construction space? Are there any critical skills you'd like some of the operators within those spaces to add onto their CVs, basically, in order to be more collaborative?
Well, like
useful?
what just Kelia said, we found that it's actually much easier when we work with people who are already into the sector, right? For example, in construction. So looking at people who have some background in GIS, for example, surveying. So it becomes easier for them to, even the collection part of the data. So he knows if I'm going to fly over a construction site, I need some certain parameters to be able to achieve the kind of data I will get from these data, from the process data, right? So it's always easier to work with those already in the field. For example, those we work especially in the aspect of spraying in the malaria control program. We also work with entomologists, right? So these are people who also have to check, the presence of these if they are still present of breeding sites. So it makes it easy for them to understand, since this is their field. So the piloting part is just an added skill to what they already know.
And this is to both of you. How do you see this space evolving, say, in 5 to 10 years? What do we hope to see more of, less of in the space here in Rwanda?
I'm really hoping to see more technology evolving, more solution coming up, tackling some of these pressing challenges that we face here and there. And yeah, of course, welcoming everyone to come on board and be a part of this journey.
Actually, if you look at it, it doesn't have to be a drone skill or a drone role. So we want to see more people at least involved also in the making of the parts of the drones, because we need sometimes propellers, we need the flight controllers, we need everything, but we ended up going to the outside market, Dubai or any other. So I would love to see that more of. But then, I would also love to see a lot of early stage innovators, or at least people with big ideas on how they want to use drones, at least be let in the space to know exactly what is happening. They might not be able to fly and go out there, but they might be able to at least, walk around the idea of, I can also be a founder of a startup company, right? So I think that's also something that I would love to see more. And yeah, I think that's it. Yeah.
That's really lovely. Thank you so much for joining us for this conversation. I'll see you for the next one. Stay innovative. This podcast is brought to you by the Ministry of ICT and Innovation in partnership with GIZ and the Digital Transformation Center Rwanda.